A lonely billionaire dreamed of a woman, then she appeared and changed his life. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more traumatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's go back to our main character. The fluorescent lights above Westbridge Private Hospital hum like a tired secret, the kind of sound you stop noticing only when you have no choice. Evelyn Moore hears it anyway. She hears everything at night. The soft squeak of her sneakers on spotless tile, the distant hiss of an elevator sealing shut, the clean, sharp bite of antiseptic in the air that clings to her hair even after she showers. She has worked the night shift for almost 3 years, long enough to know that hospitals have two faces, the daytime face with chatter and coffee and families and waiting rooms, and the nighttime face that feels like the building is holding its breath. Tonight feels different. It starts with a message on her pager that doesn't explain anything, only directs her to the top floor and to an office she has never been called into before. Dr. Mercer, Chief of Neurology. Her stomach drops as if someone cut the lights inside her chest. It is not because she thinks she did something wrong, not exactly. It is because when a hospital calls you upstairs at midnight, it is never for something small. Evelyn pauses at the elevator, fingers tightening around the strap of her tote bag. She thinks of the bills on her kitchen counter, the nursing school loan that still follows her like a shadow, the way she promised herself she would never let fear make her careless. She presses the button. The doors slide open with a whisper. The ride up feels longer than it should. Floor numbers glow one by one like a countdown. When the doors open on the VIP level, the air changes. The halls are quieter, softer, carpeted. Even the lighting looks expensive. There is a faint scent of leather somewhere, mixed with that same clinical clean. Evelyn walks toward Dr. Mercer's office and knocks once, then twice, because her first knock comes out too gentle. "Come in," a voice says, calm and measured, the kind of calm that belongs to someone used to carrying heavy outcomes. Inside, Dr. Mercer stands near a wide window that frames the city skyline like a photograph. His hands are clasped behind his back. He doesn't turn right away. For a second, Evelyn feels like she has stepped into someone else's life. The office is immaculate. A thick folder sits on the desk, and beside it, a newspaper clipping in a plastic sleeve. Dr. Mercer finally faces her, and his eyes scan her the way doctors scan monitors. Not unkindly, just precisely. "Nurse Moore," he says, "you're one of our most consistent night staff." Evelyn swallows. "Yes, doctor." He nods once, as if confirming something to himself. "I'm going to offer you an assignment, but I need you to understand what you're walking into." He gestures to the chair, and Evelyn sits, careful and straight-backed. The folder on the desk looks heavy enough to have gravity. "This job is not for the weak-hearted," Dr. Mercer says. And when he says it, it doesn't sound like a warning meant to scare her. It sounds like a warning meant to protect the patient. Evelyn's throat tightens. What kind of patient? Dr. Mercer reaches down and slides the folder toward her, but he doesn't let go yet. A long-term coma case, private suite, highest security, limited access, family complications. His fingers finally release the folder. The name printed on the front stops Evelyn's breath like a hand over her mouth. Julian Cross. Even if she didn't recognize the name from tech headlines, the clipping makes it impossible to miss. A photo of a mangled sports car, a bridge at night, flashing lights, a caption that reads like a sentence with no mercy. Billionaire founder Julian Cross injured in late-night crash. Evelyn's mind tries to place the man in a category so her body can react properly. Billionaire, CEO, power, money. People like that don't come to this hospital without their own universe trailing behind them. But the file tells a different story. 1 year. Unresponsive. No meaningful improvements. The words blur, and Evelyn realizes she is holding her breath. "He's been here? The whole time?" she asks softly. Dr. Mercer nods. "A year." His private physicians rotate in and out. Specialists come for consults. But most staff do the bare minimum and leave the room as quickly as possible. Evelyn looks down at the folder again, at the cold language of charts and notes. She imagines a person inside that silence. A person who can't speak, can't blink on command, can't tell anyone he is afraid. Dr. Mercer's voice lowers. What makes this case unusual is not his status. He taps the clipping with one finger. Status is noise. This is what matters. His recovery will depend on consistency, human presence, not just medicine. And I need someone who will treat him like a person, not a headline.
Evelyn's fingers press into the edge of the folder. Why me? The question slips out before she can stop it. Dr. Mercer studies her for a moment, and for the first time his expression softens. Because you don't perform compassion, he says. You practice it, when no one is watching. Evelyn feels heat sting behind her eyes, not from flattery, but from the weight of being seen accurately. She clears her throat. What exactly do you need me to do? Dr. Mercer exhales slowly, like he's been holding this too. Night care, vitals, basic hygiene, skin integrity, monitoring for changes. And, he pauses. Talk to him. I know that sounds foolish, but we have evidence that some coma patients register voices, rhythms, familiarity. If anything is going to reach him, it won't be another machine. It will be a person. Evelyn looks down again, and her gaze catches on one detail in the notes. Patient exhibits heightened response to auditory stimuli during late-night hours. She doesn't know why, but something about that line makes her chest ache. Late-night hours. The same hour she lives in. Dr. Mercer stands straighter, businesslike again. I won't sugarcoat it. This may change nothing. He may never wake up. But if he does, if there's even a chance, this is where it starts. Evelyn closes the folder gently, as if closing it too hard might break whatever fragile thread is still holding on inside it. She should be intimidated. She should be thinking about lawsuits and security, and the way powerful families can turn kind nurses into convenient scapegoats. Instead, she finds herself thinking about one simple thing: being alone in a room for a year, hearing nothing but the beat of your own heart, and having no way to ask for someone to stay. Evelyn lifts her eyes to Dr. Mercer. I'll do it, she says, and her voice surprises even her with how steady it is. Dr. Mercer nods once, like he expected that answer but still respects it. He reaches for a keycard on his desk and slides it toward her. Suite 47. Top floor. You start tonight. Evelyn takes the card, and the plastic feels colder than it should. As she stands, Dr. Mercer adds, almost as an afterthought, one more thing. Evelyn pauses at the door. Yes? Dr. Mercer's gaze is direct. If you ever feel like you're not alone in that room, don't dismiss it too quickly. Evelyn's pulse flickers. She doesn't ask what he means because something tells her she'll understand soon enough. She steps back into the hallway, the hum of the lights following her like a low note. She walks toward Suite 47 with the keycard in her palm, and with every step she feels as if she's walking toward a life that has been waiting for her without her knowing it. Evelyn holds the keycard like it has weight beyond plastic, like it is a small permission slip into a world she was never invited to, and the hallway on the top floor feels less like a hospital corridor and more like the quiet wing of a hotel where every sound is softened on purpose. Her footsteps sink into carpet. The air is cooler here, filtered, almost perfumed by money, but underneath it all that same sterile clean still lives. She passes a framed landscape on the wall, the kind you would see in a corporate lobby, and she wonders who decided that sick people needed art to feel human. At the end of the hall, Suite 47 waits behind a door with a brushed metal handle and a discreet camera above it. There is a security panel beside the frame. No room number in bright plastic, no cheerful signs. Just a hush that makes Evelyn slow down without meaning to. She swipes the card. A soft beep answers her. The lock releases. When she pushes the door open, the first thing she hears is not a voice, not a television, not footsteps. It is the steady electronic rhythm of a heart monitor, calm and repetitive, like a metronome keeping time for someone who cannot. The suite is dim, lit by warm wall sconces and the glow of city lights through wide windows. It does not look like a place for suffering, and that fact alone makes her chest tighten. There is a sitting area with a leather sofa, a small table with untouched magazines, and a vase of flowers that look expensive and tired at the same time, as if they have been replaced more for appearances than comfort. Then she sees the bed. Julian Cross lies in the center of the room beneath crisp bright sheets, surrounded by equipment that is quiet but watchful. Tubes, sensors, lines, machines that breathe and blink and keep record of every second he remains suspended between here and elsewhere. I have cared for coma patients before, but something about him stops her. Not because he is handsome, though he is, in a sharp, sculpted way that looks unreal against the pallor of hospital light. Not because of the name that the world knows, though I can feel that name in the room like a shadow. It is because he looks alone in a way that wealth cannot fix. There is no chair pulled close with a jacket draped over it, no half-finished coffee, no scribbled note that someone will be back in the morning. The space is immaculate, untouched by love. Evelyn breathes out slowly and sets her tote bag on a side table. She checks the chart, confirms the orders, reviews the notes Dr. Mercer mentioned. Long-term coma, minimal response, family complications. She keeps her face neutral even though the words try to pull her into curiosity, because curiosity is easy and care is work. She sanitizes her hands, slips on gloves, and steps closer. His lashes rest against his cheeks. His mouth is relaxed, but not peaceful. It is the expression of someone forced into stillness, not someone choosing rest. Evelyn reaches for the bedside console and dims one overhead light. The room becomes softer. She checks the IV line, reads the numbers on the monitor, listens to the rhythm like she is learning a language. Then, on the nightstand, she notices a watch. Not a cheap digital square, but a heavy, old-style wristwatch with a dark leather band. It looks out of place among the sleek machines, like something personal that refused to be replaced. The face is still. The hands are stopped at 2:17. Evelyn tilts her head, studying it. 2:17. Not a round number. Not midnight. Not an accident of battery, she thinks. Not with a watch like that. She doesn't know why the detail matters, but she feels it register inside her like a small seed being planted. She turns back to Julian. The chart says hygiene care is scheduled nightly to prevent skin breakdown. Routine, Dr. Mercer said. Consistency. Human presence. Evelyn warms a basin of water in the suite bathroom.
Keeps ordering tests and assessments, and the staff rotates in and out with professional faces, speaking in measured tones about neurological markers and responsiveness. But Evelyn is the only one who stays when the door closes and the lights dim, and it is just one patient and one witness. On the third night, the rain comes down hard, the kind of cold winter rain that turns city lights into smeared gold on the window, and the wind pushes against the glass like it wants in. Evelyn swipes into Suite 47 at 12:12, checks the monitor, reads the numbers, and feels that familiar lift in Julian's heart rate, as if his body recognizes her presence before his mind is allowed to. She warms the basin, sets out the cloths, and starts her routine with hands that have done this 1,000 times, but her nerves are different tonight, tightened like a string pulled too far. "Good evening, Julian," she says soft and steady. "It is Evelyn. I am here." She pauses, listening. The beep answers. She glances at the watch. The hands move normally now, no longer trapped at 2:17, and that should make her feel relieved. Instead, it makes her feel like something important is approaching. She begins the hygiene care, careful around the lines, supporting his shoulder, keeping him comfortable. She talks as she works, not because she expects a reply, but because it feels cruel to let him float in quiet. "You know what I learned tonight," she says gently, wiping his forearm. "People think money makes you safe. But I have seen safe people who are poor, and I have seen rich people who are not safe at all." She pauses, then adds with a faint, tired smile in her voice, "I think you already know that." The monitor quickens slightly. Evelyn shifts the pillow behind his head and leans closer. "You are not alone," she says, the phrase she has repeated so many times it has become part of the room's heartbeat. "You are not alone." The change is immediate and undeniable. Julian's fingers curl, stronger than before, and the monitor ticks faster, then steadies, like his body is trying to decide whether it is allowed to answer. Evelyn's breath catches, and she forces her hands to remain calm. "That is okay," she whispers. "I am right here. You can take your time." She reaches for his hand and rests her fingers along his palm, not gripping, not pulling, breath, then speaks again, lower. "Julian," she says, and the way she says his name is different, more personal, because it has become personal. "If you can hear me, you do not have to fight alone. Come back." For a moment, nothing happens. The beep continues. The rain keeps tapping at the window. Evelyn watches his face, searching for anything, even the smallest tremor that might mean he is trying. Then it happens. His eyelids flutter, once, twice, as if a heavy door is being tested from the inside. Evelyn leans closer without thinking, her voice barely above a whisper. "That is it," she says softly. "That is good. I am here. You are safe." Julian's brow tightens, a faint crease forming between it, like confusion or pain or effort. And then his eyes open, not wide, not clear, but open enough that Evelyn sees the dark irises behind them, unfocused at first, searching like someone waking from a deep nightmare. For a second, he stares past her, at the ceiling, at the light, at nothing. Then his gaze shifts, slow and uncertain, and lands on her face. Evelyn freezes, because being looked at by someone who has not looked at anyone in a year is not a normal experience. It feels like standing in the path of something enormous and fragile at the same time. "Julian," she whispered again, almost afraid to breathe too loudly. "It is Evelyn." His lips part slightly, dry, and no sound comes out. His throat works like he is trying to remember how. His eyes blink once,
slow. Then his hand, the hand beneath her fingers, closes around her, with a faint but deliberate pressure. It is not strong. It is not dramatic. But it is real. Evelyn's chest tightens so hard it hurts. She feels tears gather, but she does not let them fall yet. She cannot make this about her emotions. She has to be his anchor. "You did it," she says softly. "You are here." Julian's gaze holds her, and something shifts in this expression. Not recognition like he knows her name, but recognition like he knows her presence. Like he has heard her voice in a place where voices do not usually reach. His eyes flick towards the window, then back to her, and his fingers tighten slightly again, as if he is afraid that if he lets go, he will fall back into the dark. Evelyn presses the call button immediately, controlled and quick, and the alarm system sends its silent signal down the hall. She keeps her hand in his. "Help is coming," she tells him. "Stay with me. You are not alone." The door opens and footsteps rush in, nurses and a doctor moving with practiced urgency. But Evelyn does not step away until someone gently touches her shoulder and says, "We have him." Even then, she only releases Julian's hand after she sees his eyes blink again, as if answering her one last time before the room fills with voices. The youngest billionaire in the city is awake, but the first thing he reaches for is not a phone, not a lawyer, not a boardroom. It is the hand of the woman whose voice kept him tethered to life, night after night, when time itself had stopped at 2:17. By the time the storm outside fades into a thin gray dawn, the entire top floor feels charged with a quiet kind of disbelief, the kind that makes people speak softer even as they move faster. Doctors come and go. Dr. Mercer stands at the foot of the bed with a tablet in his hand, eyes sharp, voice calm, giving orders that sound precise enough to keep emotion from spilling into the room. Evelyn stays close, not because she thinks she belongs there, but because Julian's gaze keeps searching for her the way a drowning person searches for the edge of the pool. When the team finishes the first round of checks and the suite finally settles again, the lights dim, the machines return to a steadier rhythm, and Julian lies back against the pillows looking exhausted, like waking up has taken every ounce of strength he has left. His eyes are open now, but they drift, unfocused at times, as if he is still half in a dream and half in a place he does not trust. Evelyn moves to adjust his blanket. Careful. Slow. "You did something very hard," she says softly. "You woke up after a long time." Julian swallows. His throat works painfully, and he tries to speak, but only a rough breath comes out. His brow tightens with frustration. Evelyn leans closer so he doesn't have to fight the distance. "Do not push," she tells him. "You are safe. Your voice will come back." Julian's eyes flick to her face, and the intensity in them surprises her. Not because it is romantic, not yet, but because it is human and urgent, like he needs to confirm she is real. His lips part again, and this time a whisper scrapes out, barely audible. "You." It is not a full sentence. It is not even a question. It is simply recognition, raw and shaken. Evelyn's breath catches. "Yes," she says. "It is me, Evelyn." Julian blinks, slow, and his eyes shine with something that looks too heavy to name. He glances around the suite as if seeing it for the first time, then back to her. Another whisper, broken, but clear enough. "Night." Evelyn nods. "Yes," she answers, keeping her voice steady. Julian's hand shifts on the sheet, trembling with weakness, and he reaches toward her as if the movement itself is painful but necessary. Evelyn places her hand in his again, letting him choose the contact. His fingers curl around hers with a faint pressure, and he closes his eyes for a second, as if holding her hand is the only thing keeping him anchored to the bed, and not slipping back into the dark. "You are doing great," Evelyn whispers. "You are here." Over the next few days, recovery becomes a slow ladder with rungs that sometimes feel too far apart. Julian tires quickly. His muscles are weak. His voice is fragile. He remembers pieces of things like scattered glass, but not the whole story. Physical therapists visit and coax him through tiny movements that look insignificant to outsiders, but feel monumental in the room. Lifting a finger, turning his head, swallowing water without choking. Doctors explain that confusion is normal, that memory may return in fragments, that patience will be necessary. Julian listens, but his attention keeps sliding back to Evelyn, as if she is the only familiar point in a world that has been rearranged. Evelyn continues to work her night shifts, and even when another nurse covers part of the daycare, Evelyn notices that Julian's vitals stay steadier when she is present. The monitor does not lie. His heart rate settles when she speaks. His breathing smooths when she says the phrase she has repeated so many times that it has become part of his nervous system now. "You are not alone," I tell him. One-eyed as she checks his intravenous line and smooths the blanket at his waist. Julian's eyes close briefly, and a faint sound comes from his throat. Not quite a laugh, not quite a sob. "That," he whispers. Evelyn pauses. "What about that?" Julian swallows. "I heard," he says, voice strained but sincere. Evelyn's chest tightens, and she forces herself to remain calm, because if she breaks, he will feel it. "You heard me?" she asks softly. Julian nods once, the motion small and exhausting. "Voice," he whispers. "Every night." He takes a shaky breath, and his eyes fix on her with a focus that looks almost frightened. "I was there," he says, struggling for words. "Dark, but your voice, bold." Evelyn's eyes sting, and she lets herself breathe out slowly. "I hoped you could," she admits. "I did not know, but I hoped." Julian's hand shifts on the sheet, trembling with weakness, and he reaches toward her as if the movement itself is painful but necessary. Evelyn places her hand in his again, letting him choose the contact. His fingers curl around hers with a faint pressure, and he closes his eyes for a second, as if holding her hand is the only thing keeping him anchored to the bed and not slipping back into the dark. "You are doing great," Evelyn whispers. "You are here." Over the next few days, recovery becomes a slow ladder with rungs that sometimes feel too far apart. Julian tires quickly. His muscles are weak. His voice is fragile. He remembers pieces of things like scattered glass, but not the whole story. Physical therapists visit and coax him through tiny...
Back to Evelyn. I thought it was a joke. Evelyn feels cold spread through her chest. "Do you remember anything else?" she asks gently. Julian's brow furrows. "I remember leaving the building," he says, slow, searching. "I remember my car feeling normal at first. Then I remember the time." His eyes flick to the watch. 2:17. The dashboard clock. The moment the brakes did nothing. Evelyn's throat tightens. The number has meaning now, not mystical, not romantic, but terrifyingly real. Julian's hand grips hers with more strength than he should have. 2:17 was the moment I understood I was going to die, he whispers. Evelyn squeezes back softly, grounding him. "You did not die," she says. "You are here." Julian swallows, and when he speaks again, the billionaire is awake behind his eyes. "If Victor did this," he says, "he has been running my company for a year." Evelyn's heart pounds. "And if he wanted you gone," she adds quietly, "he may not be finished." Julian's gaze hardens. "Then we do not wait," he says. "We do not recover in silence while someone else writes my life." Evelyn hesitates. "Julian, you cannot storm into a boardroom. You can barely sit up without getting dizzy." Julian's mouth tightens. "Then we do it your way," he says. And the fact that he says that, the fact that he trusts her, hits Evelyn harder than any confession could. "We do it carefully." He takes a breath, voice steadying. "Call Dr. Mercer. Tell him I want my attorney, not the one assigned by my family. I want an independent investigator. I want the police involved." Evelyn nods, already moving, but Julian stops her with a weak tug on her hand. "Evelyn," he whispers. She leans closer. "Yes." His eyes lock on hers, and for a moment the fear is there again, raw and human. "Do not let them move me," he says. "Do not let them separate you from me." Evelyn's chest tightens. "I will not," she promises, and she means it. Within hours, everything accelerates. Dr. Mercer's calm becomes a controlled storm. He makes calls, locks down records, quietly requests security changes. An independent attorney arrives, not in a flashy suit, but in a simple dark coat, eyes sharp. A detective meets with hospital administration. Statements are taken. The break report is subpoenaed. The hospital footage is secured. Evelyn watches it unfold like a line of dominoes, and she realizes how much power exists in the world when truth is finally allowed into the room. 2 days later, Victor Cross arrives. He enters Suite 47 with a smile that looks rehearsed, carrying a bouquet that feels like a prop. He is well-dressed, charming, and he speaks as if he owns the air. "Julian," he says warmly, stepping close. "Brother, you gave everyone quite a scare." Julian looks at him without blinking. His voice is hoarse but steady. "Did I?" he says. Victor's smile flickers for half a second,
then returns. "We are just grateful you are awake," Victor replies. He turns his attention to Evelyn with a polite nod. "And you must be the nurse. Thank you for taking care of him." Evelyn feels her skin crawl, but she keeps her face neutral. Julian's eyes never leave Victor. "Where were you at 2:17? Julian asks quietly. The question hung in the room like a knife suspended midair. Victor laughs softly, like it is absurd. 2:17, he repeats. "Julian, you have been asleep for a year. You are confused." Julian's mouth tightens. "Answer the question," he says. Victor's gaze sharpens, then slides toward the door as if checking who is listening. "This is not the time," Victor says, voice lower. "We can talk privately." Julian exhales slowly. "No," he says, "we cannot." And that is when the door opens and the detective steps in with 2 uniformed officers behind him, calm and official. Victor turns, startled, the smile finally cracking. "What is this?" he demands. The detective holds up a warrant, voice even. "Victor Cross, you are being arrested in connection with the tampering of Julian Cross's vehicle and the attempted concealment of evidence." Victor's face strains. He looks at Julian, then at Evelyn, and the anger that flashes in his eyes is so sharp it makes Evelyn's stomach drop. "You," Victor spits at her, the mask gone. "I am," she says quietly. "That is why I stayed." The officers move in. Victor protests, tries to twist it into a misunderstanding, but the handcuffs click closed with a final sound that feels like justice arriving on time. Julian closes his eyes for a moment, a long breath leaving him, not triumphant, not vengeful, just exhausted. When he opens them again, his gaze finds Evelyn, and in that look is a truth that does not need a speech. He did not survive because of money or power. He survived because someone with no reason to risk herself chose integrity over fear, and now the person who tried to erase him is being led out of the room, while the woman who saved him remains right where she promised she would be. After Victor is led away, the room does not erupt into celebration. It exhales. The suited men outside the door speak into earpieces and look suddenly less like shadows and more like ordinary security doing a necessary job. Dr. Mercer signs forms with a steady hand. The detective finishes statements. The attorney murmurs about next steps, and then slowly the suite empties, until it is quiet again, the way it always becomes quiet after something life-changing happens. Evelyn stands near the foot of the bed, hands clasped in front of her, trying to steady the tremor in her fingers now that she no longer has adrenaline to hold her up. Julian watches her as if he is seeing her clearly for the first time, not as the voice in the dark, not as the hand that anchored him, but as a person who took a risk and could have lost everything. "Evelyn," he says softly. His voice is stronger now, still rough, but present. She looks at him. "Yes." Julian swallows, eyes shining with something quiet and heavy. "You should not have had to do that," he says. Evelyn takes a slow breath. "Someone had to," she answers. "And you were too weak to protect yourself." Julian's gaze drops for a moment, and when he looks back up, his expression is different, stripped of pride. "I have spent my entire life believing I could control everything," he admits. "I built a company like it was armor. I built walls. I thought loneliness was the price of being untouchable." His jaw tightens, then relaxes, as if he is letting the truth out without fighting it. "Then I woke up, and the only thing that made me feel safe was a nurse on the night shift who kept telling me I was not alone." Evelyn's throat tightens. She tries to keep her voice professional, because she has been taught boundaries, and because the world will assume the worst if a billionaire and a nurse get too close. "I did my job," she says quietly. Julian shakes head slow. "You did more than your job," he replies. "You gave me something I did not earn." He pauses, breath catching slightly. Presence. The word lands in the room like a promise. Over the next weeks, Julian's recovery continues in small, stubborn steps. He learns to sit up with dizziness, then to stand with help, then to take a few shaky steps with a walker. He hates how slow it is, hates needing help, hates the vulnerability. But when frustration rises, Evelyn steadies him with the same calm she used when he was silent. She is there on her shifts, and even when she is not, he asks about her in a way that makes the staff exchange knowing looks. The headlines come, of course they do. Billionaire founder awake after year-long coma. Family member arrested. Company under investigation. People speculate. People gossip. People reduce the story to money and scandal. But inside Suite 47, the story is simpler. A man who almost died learns how to live again, and a woman who believed he could hear her learns that her voice mattered. One evening after Julian has been cleared to leave the hospital soon, Dr. Mercer steps in with a small box and a quiet smile that looks like relief. "This was recovered from the crash site evidence inventory," he says, handing it to Julian. Julian opens it slowly. Inside is the old watch. The leather band is worn, the face polished, the hands moving steadily now. Julian stares at it for a long moment, then looks at Evelyn. "I remember," he says, voice low. Evelyn's heart pounds. "What do you remember?" she asks. Julian swallows. 2:17 was not just the dashboard clock. It was the time my mother used to call me when I was a kid. His eyes softened, and the billionaire disappeared behind the memory. Every night she would call at 2:17 if I was still awake, because my father traveled, and she hated the silence. She would say, "Julian, you are not alone. I am here. Go to sleep." Evelyn's breath catches. The words feel like they have been echoing through the entire story without anyone knowing where they began. Julian's gaze holds hers. "When I was in the dark," he whispers, "I heard you say it. The same words, over and over. It felt like my mother's voice was guiding me back, but it was yours." Evelyn presses a hand to her chest, overwhelmed, and then quickly lowers it, embarrassed by her own emotion. Julian reaches for her hand, and this time his grip is steadier, warmer. "You brought me back," he says. Evelyn shakes head gently. "I stayed," she corrects. "You did the coming back." Julian's eyes shine. "Then stay," he says, voice quiet but certain. Evelyn's chest tightens again, but this time it is not fear. It is the weight of being chosen without conditions. "Julian," I begin, carefully. "Your world is not kind to people like me." Julian gives a faint, tired smile. "Then I will change my world," he says. A week later, on the hospital rooftop at sunset, Julian stands with a cane in one hand and the watch in the other. The sky burns orange over the city, and the wind is gentle, not like the storm that night he woke, but like a quiet second chance. Evelyn stands beside him in simple scrubs, because she came straight from her shift, because she is still Evelyn, still real. Julian turns to her, and there is no grand crowd, no staged cameras, no performance. Just a man who learned what matters. He places the watch in her palm. "It stopped at 2:17 when I lost my life," he says softly. "It moves again because you reminded me I was not alone." He takes a breath, then lowers himself carefully, not fully kneeling because his body is still healing, but bowing his head like someone offering something sacred. "Evelyn Moore," he says softly, voice steady. "I dreamed of you before I understood I needed you, but I choose you awake. Will you build a life with me? Not in my shadow, not on my payroll, but at my side." Evelyn's eyes fill, and she laughs through it because it feels unreal, because kindness rarely gets rewarded this cleanly. Then she nods, voice trembling. "Yes," she whispers. Julian's breath shudders out, relief and joy mixed together, and he pulls her hand to his lips.